What's up, guys? DrFeelGood here, back again with another video prescription. And I just have one question to the third-party developers, publishers, as well as Sony and Microsoft. I have a question for you. Why do you guys talk all that shit? Why can't you just do something without ever trying to hype it up in unrealistic ways? And I know some of you guys thinking like, DrFeelGood, what are you talking about? What are you getting at? Let me explain. Let me elaborate. If you have not noticed, when it comes to third-party publishers and developers, what have they been doing over the last decade or more? They brag about the specs of their game or how they run even while the game is not even close to being an alpha. They brag about what they have achieved. Even though the game hasn't been released yet, we don't know if it's going to be broken or not. They say, oh yeah, we were able to achieve 1080p 60 frames per second. We're able to achieve 720p at a locked frame rate. We were able to, achieve this through the power of the PlayStation 4. We were able to achieve this utilizing the Xbox's unique, this or that. They brag too much. See, the typical gamer just wants to see the damn game. We don't care how you got the game to where it is. We honestly don't. I don't think anyone that loves a movie cares more about the making of prior to seeing the movie itself. No one here wants to see the making of Black Panther before Black Panther arrives. Because what if the movie is garbage? See what I mean? You can do that stuff after the game is released. But doing all this hyping up, giving us numbers and telling us what you were able to do prior to the game's launch, you're doing too much of that. You really are. And I'm not saying Nintendo has never spoken about games, before their release, but you don't hear Nintendo, you didn't hear them saying about Xenoblade Chronicles X. Well, yes, we were able to achieve 720p, 30 frames per second through the power of the Wii U. They weren't trying to hype it up like that. They weren't. We know that is the case. We know those are the specs, but that's not something Nintendo used as a bragging right. Even with Mario Kart 8, Nintendo would come out and say, well, yes, through the power of the Wii U, we were able to obtain 720p, 60 frames per second. No. They didn't. But today, these third-party developers and publishers, they do that. They do it just as much, if not more, than Sony and Microsoft when it comes to their consoles. Oh, we all heard about PlayStation 3. With the PlayStation 3 and the power of the cell processor, we were able to obtain 2 1080p images or displays. They could even maintain 1. Not natively, but they bragged that they could do 2. With the cell processor and its 7 cores, we're able to achieve realism you've never seen before. We're able to do this many computations, this many teraflops. Who cares? Why are you bragging? None of this matters to the typical Joe, the typical gamer even. Even to the experienced gamer, none of this matters. None of it. I have never purchased a game based on specs. I've never looked at a box and said, oh no, they say this game is 720p. No, I'm not going to buy it. Nor have I ever heard a developer say, well, this game is using the newest version of Unreal Engine 4. Oh, that's a definite purchase. No, I never thought that. Why not just release your damn game or release your damn console and don't say shit about it? What happened to that? What's wrong with that? But that's all you hear today. Why make these claims about the resolution or the frame rate? Why? What do you get out of that? I'm being serious. I want you guys to ask yourselves that. And to the ones watching this video, think about it. The third-party developers and publishers, as well as Sony and Microsoft, they brag too much even before things are released. Why brag about what your console can do theoretically? Say you can handle 1.2 million teraflops or computations per teraflop, or whatever it is. Is that something to brag about? I mean, you're not entering your system in a supercomputer contest. Who cares? And this is a theory. This is theoretical. This is not actual everyday performance. Let the tech heads search for these specs or ask about them. But you know what? Hey, Naughty Dog, just release Uncharted 4. Don't talk about what the resolution is or the frame rate. Just release the damn game. Because I can guarantee you, most people that are a fan of your franchise won't give a shit. Now, once you do give them that information, you're going to have a few that may be either elated or disappointed. Very simple. That's why I love Nintendo games. See, I don't really know what I'm getting. I don't know if it's going to be 30 frames per second or 60 in most cases. I just know the game looks fun. It looks fun as hell. If I find out later on that the game is 30 frames per second, so what? I still have fun with it. Breath of the Wild, 30 frames per second. And it has a few dips here and there. It does not ruin my experience. Even when I experienced those dips, it never hindered my experience. I never thought less of the game. Because the game was so fun to me. So fun. Still is. Just release your games. This is something Liger said. And shout out to him. But just release your games. Or release your console and stop saying shit prior to. If you're a developer or publisher, release your game. Don't talk about frame rate. Don't talk about resolution. Just say, hey, we got a really great game. It's going to have these new features. Stop telling us how the game is going to perform. Stop. Just stop it. Console makers, Sony and Microsoft. Stop telling us what your console can theoretically do. How many gigs of RAM it has. Stop bragging. Just release the damn console and tell us what games are coming to it. And how they will take advantage of the system. Nintendo released the Switch. They showed it off to, they revealed it to us, gave us a hint of what's to come. They showed us a concept basically. They revealed the system, told us what games are coming within the first, what games are coming period. They didn't let us know what games are coming out this year. Simple. All this was Xenoblade 2 is going to be in this resolution and run at this frame rate. And Mario Kart 8 is going to be at this resolution. They didn't do all that. They just released games. And guess what? I still do not care what the resolution frame rate is for ARMS. I know it's 60 frames per second. And I know some modes is knocked down to 30 frames per second depending on the number of players. I think if it's more than 2 players, it's 30 frames per second. But guess what? At launch, I didn't know that stuff and I didn't give two shits. I just know the game is fun. Same thing for Splatoon. Didn't care if the original was 720p. Didn't care. The sequel could have been 720p. I don't care. It's a fun game. Simple. Just learn to release your game or your console and stop talking all this shit. And you know what? You'll have less journalists and gamers criticizing your product. Or at least they won't criticize it based on resolution and frame rate. If your game is fun, then guess what? Despite a shitty frame rate, guess what? It's still fun. If your game is fun or looks good despite its shitty resolution, it still gets credit. But when you brag about your game as this and it's not, it takes away from it. I'm just saying. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Stop bragging. Just release. Give us what matters most. Developers and publishers of video games, That's important is your game fun? What features will it utilize? What makes it unique? That's it. That's it. And maybe what it's based on. What concepts? What other games? Console makers, tell us what your console will offer in terms of games. What experiences would it give us that make it unique? That's it. I don't care about your specs. I don't care what your CPU is. I don't care what the amount of RAM is. I don't care. Tell me what games are coming, because that's what I'm going to use to base my purchase on. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. And as I always say, keep it gaming.